Good morning, first years. In the interest of full disclosure, I think it's only fair to say that I've just recorded a 10-minute video of this and then had my microphone switched off. So this is take 2. So let's hope it goes a bit better this time. Excuse me. Guys, what we're going to look at this morning is our new topic, decimals. So this is a bit of an introduction to decimals. Look at decimal fractions in particular. See if we can get up to 3 decimal places. Put up the top here just a little bit about what we're trying to do today. So we're going to look at decimal fraction, know what that is, how to write it, and how the place value works with decimals. Success criteria is to be able to identify the value of a decimal from a picture and vice versa. We're going to identify the value of each digit in a decimal up to 2 or 3 decimal places, and we want to accurately order a given selection of decimals. Right, now I realise some of this might be a bit daunting, might be a bit tricky for a few people, so what I've done is I've put some consolidation tasks just over here. So I suggest you watch the rest of the video, see what you think. There's one task there with decimals, and then there's a couple of that don't have decimals here. If you're happy that you're going to try the work on decimals, then I absolutely would encourage you to do that. There's no need to do both. So if you're working through the tasks at the left hand side here, there's no need to do the consolidation tasks. Okay, so what is a decimal? So I've got a nice sort of pictorial representation of what a decimal is here. So I've decided to work with toffee. So I've got one tray of toffee here, and what I've done is I've sort of divided this tray up into 10 slices. Alright, so each slice, 1 bar of toffee, as described here, alright, is 1/10 of the tray. So 1/10 of that unit, that one tray. When we write that as 0.1, that is as a decimal fraction. You've probably seen that quite often, decimal points used in money and things like that. You'll be reasonably familiar with that. So because we've split it into 10 bits and each bit is 1/10, then another way of writing 1/10 rather than the fraction form, which is here, we can write that as 0.1. Here it says the decimal number is 0.7. The 7 refers to 7/10, so let's just change this bit. If I was to do 7/10 by shading in this, I would need to shade in 7 bars. So I think that's 4, 5, 6, 7. So if I was to shade in 7 of them, then this represents now 0.7. What we've also got underneath here is we've actually got a couple of these diagrams which don't just have 0 in front of them. So the first one here is 1C, so because it's sort of giving you a wee clue, it's got one full tray, so then that's why this whole number here is a 1, because there's one full tray. Alright, if we look at some of the other ones, so there's 3 full trays for D, so that's going to start off as 3 point something. Okay, so that'll kind of help you here. When it says draw neat pictures of these styles, then I would like you to do that, but what I've also got, which might be quite nice to show you, alright, is I've put this link down the bottom of the page. This is an online decimal demonstrator. So here if I add 1 into the units column, you get 1 cup, so it uses cups to represent here. If I add another one, I'm going to get 2 cups, 3 cups, and you get the idea. If I add in 1/10, so I've now got 10, it was in one bundle of 10. If I add in 100, I get a bundle of 100, I'm going to get 200, 300. That's the way that this demonstrator gives you that pictorially. If I clear that off and let me just look at the decimal point, so if I look at the tenths column, which we've just looked at here, so it's now spinning 1/10 of a cup round. So that you'll see in the circle just above the 1 there, it's split into 10 bits. If I keep working my way up, so I've now got 0.5, 0.5, and it's giving me half a cup. So that's half a cup because 5 out of the 10 sections are filled in. But I can keep going and go up to 9. If I go to 10, it gives me that 1 full cup. Excuse me. You can use this decimal demonstrator if you would like, screenshot it, and you can paste them into your OneNote if you would rather, instead of doing the pictorial representations by drawing them. That's absolutely fine. Should maybe also mention that you don't necessarily have to write directly onto the OneNote or type onto the OneNote. If you would rather do your answers in your jotter or in a bit of paper and then just photograph that and paste it in, that would be really helpful so I could see what you've managed to do. So that's question 2. Question 3, we then have to look at the second decimal place. So I'll explain what I've sort of put in here for you, and then we'll have a wee look at the decimal demonstrator as well. So we've already discussed how we can have our whole tray here, cut it into 10 bits, and we've got 1/10 of a bar. If I now take that bar and I divide that into 10 bits again, I get 1/10 of 1 bar. Alright, so I've ended up here with 1/10 of 1/10, which actually gives me 100th. So 1/10 of 1/10 is 100th. So the second decimal place, alright, we write that as 0.01. Alright, the second decimal place here, alright, is our hundredths column. So again, in the decimal number here, 0.04, the 4 represents 4 hundredths with a THS at the end of it. And we write that as a fraction, it's 4 over 100. So if I was to do 0.04, shade that in using this diagram, I would need to shade in 4 of those smaller sections there. So that would be 0.04 represented as a diagram. Okay, so what we've got here are a couple of sort of further examples. So for 4a, it's giving you 0.4 because there's 1, 2, 3, 4 tenths, and then we've got 3 hundredths there, so that means that this bit there is going to have a 3 after it, so I'm going to end up with 0.43. The big bits again will give you 1 whole unit, so that will give you a number before your decimal point other than 0. Again, number 5, your pictures. If you want to use the decimal demonstrator to do that, that'll be great. You can put things in, like if I was given 3.72, then I can do 3.72 like that. You could screenshot that and that would give me a good answer for one of those questions. Alright, so 3 wholes, 7 tenths, and then I've got 2 hundredths in my hundredths column. That is all you would really need to do to try the first sort of consolidation task. So this is the only one that's got decimals in it. So if I highlight here, the example there says I've got 4 hundredths, which matches up with this in my hundreds column. It says I've got 3 units, so that's this 3 here in my units column. There's no tens, you'll notice there's no tens that have been mentioned there, so that's why this is a 0 in the tens column, because there is no tens. It says 2 tenths, so that's my first decimal place, the first number after my point. So 2 tenths there is this here. For my hundredths, and there isn't any, so there's no hundredths at all mentioned, so again this is why that bit there, that's why this is a 0. And then for the final bit it says here 7 thousandths, so that represents that 7 there, and that's your thousandths there. So you should be able to sort of have a good go at filling in the table, just looking at the columns and matching up with the numbers that you're given in the questions. For everybody else that's working through the rest of this, they arrange the following numbers in order, smallest first. Think about it like money's always useful. So 0.95, well that's 95p if you like. That would be less than £1.16. So you can think about it that way. That might help you order some of these for question 8. Excuse me. And then for the last part of our lesson here, we're going to look at the third decimal place. So we take our sort of pictorial representation a stage further. We've got our 1, we'd split that into 10. We've got a tenth, which we're kind of used to, and then we can split that into 10 and we get a hundredth. What if we zoom right in and we split that hundredth into 10? We end up with 1 bit here. So we're doing a tenth of a tenth of a tenth, which actually ends up here giving us 1,000th. So the third column, the third decimal place, represents a thousandth. So that's that bit there. So this 0.008, the 8 is in the thousandths column. It's written as 8 over 1,000. So again, if I was to really zoom in on here, and the kind of pixelated picture won't help so much, but if I was to shade in 8 of them, so 4, that's going to be about 8 of them there, then that would be 0.008 as a sort of pictorial representation. Alright, so a few other questions there talking about thousandths column on top of your tenths and hundredths columns as well. So see how you can get there up to question 15. A few links down the bottom. So there's a link to the decimal demonstrator, which I've shown you already. A few games here, which you can try once you've had a good go at the other work here. So there's these games here and these games here, which are quite good. Just consolidate your knowledge of decimals, in particular, sort of putting them in order, working out which one's higher than the other one. So see how you get on with some of that. There's a wee kind of extension task here as well, and you'll see at the left hand side that there's a few puzzles which I've got saved. I'm going to put one puzzle in a week, so I will add a puzzle into our folder and you can try that. I'm not going to share the answers to the puzzles until the following week. Alright, so you can get the answers to the puzzle the following Monday. Okay guys, I hope you get on okay. I'll be available on the chat. Remember, you're going to have to go through to your own class team, your 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D maths team. Tag me in any questions you've got there. Might be able to do some wee video calls, or I can record things and put them up for you to see if I'm getting lots of the same question coming in. Then it might be good to kind of make a little recording so we can address that. See how you get on with that, and I will speak to you later. Thanks very much.